Does the current housing market make you feel stuck renting forever? Well, if so, you aren't alone. 62% of renters feel the exact same way. But there is good news. So in this video, my AI assistant TR and I will break down the steps to evaluate your finances, set clear savings goals, and discover practical ways to cut costs while also increasing your income. Plus, I'm going to uncover the most overlooked financial loophole that can potentially cut your home saving timeline down by a third. So TR, how should we begin this one?
Let's with assessing your financial situation.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree. So without taking the time to do this step, I really don't think that there's any chance for anyone to be successful anyway. So let's go ahead and start there. So first up, let's kind of take inventory of your actual take-home pay, which is the money that actually hits your bank account each month. Okay, I'm not talking about your salary. I'm talking about what you take home, the actual cash that you take home every month. Now, it's important to be realistic here. And if you get bonuses or overtime, purposely underestimate those as well. Next, we need to list all of your monthly expenses. So this includes everything from your rent and utilities down to your Netflix subscription. Don't leave anything out. We want to make sure that we have a complete picture so that we can create realistic goals and timelines moving forward. And it's also a good idea to calculate and understand your debt to income ratio, or DTI, as it's called in the industry. So the reason for this is that this is a key number that lenders are going to look at when considering your mortgage application. So to calculate it, you'll basically divide your total monthly debt payment by your gross monthly income. And ideally, you want this number to be below 43%. That's kind of the magic number here. And lastly, it's a good idea to evaluate your credit score and get a free credit report. You can do that over at annualcreditreport.com. Link is in the description, completely free. But your credit score, it can significantly impact the interest rate that you'll get on your mortgage, which can save or cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the life of your loan. But here's the big question. Tiara?
What if your financial situation isn't looking so hot right now?
In other words,
you are broke.
Okay, so well, believe it or not, it's actually fine, because in this next section, I'm gonna show you how to create a savings plan that works even if you're starting from zero. Now, I know it might seem like an impossible mountain to climb when saving for a house, but we're going to kind of break this down into bite-sized pieces to make it much more reasonable. So first up, let's figure out your savings goal. So here we need to do a little bit of homework. So you want to check out home prices that are in the area that you want to live to get kind of a ballpark idea for what homes will actually cost there. And once we have that, we can then dive into the numbers. So to buy a house, you're going to obviously need a down payment. And these can range from as low as 3.5% if you qualify for FHA, to pretty high at around 20% of the home price, depending on your situation. So let's go with what most folks will experience the first time that they buy a house, because I think that's probably most of you watching this. So let's say that you're looking to buy a $300,000 home at 3.5% down payment, you'd need $10,500. But at 20%, that's $60,000. And of course, don't forget about all those kind of sneaky, closing costs. Those usually range from about 2 to 6% of the total loan amount. So for sake of argument, let's just say that you need $10,500 for the down payment at 3.5%, and the closing costs will say come in at about $8,000. That means that if you have 3 years to save for a house, you're going to need to save about $514 per month to make that happen, which is still a decent amount of money, but much more realistic than just coming up with $18,500 at once. So once you've finished out your numbers, you want to put the funds that you're saving into a special savings account. So for this, I'm going to recommend a high yield savings account. As of now, the time of this video, some of the accounts, they're offering interest rates right around 3.5% to 4%, which is around 10 times higher than actual regular bank accounts. So, definitely a good place to put your money as opposed to just throwing it into the bank. And lastly, I recommend that you put your savings on autopilot. So set up automatic transfers from your regular account to your house fund. It's pretty easy to do, and it makes it a lot less stressful, as you won't even have to think about it. Basically, you'll get a paycheck, the money goes into the account, and then you're left with what's over, which is kind of the ideal way to do this. So now that we have a savings plan, you might be thinking, well, that's great, but that's a lot to save each month. And I don't disagree with you, it definitely is. But we've got some ideas for you to make this easier. So, Tiara, what's next from here?
Let's dive right into cutting expenses.
Yes, let's do that, because everyone could use that. So first up, let's talk about subscriptions. Pull up your credit card statements and look for those recurring charges. Half the battle here is honestly just kind of paying attention to what's happening on your cards. So whatever subscriptions that you see, think if you actually use them, and then from there, think about whether you actually need them. I feel like everything's subscriptions these days, right? So if it comes down to ditching all those streaming services for a few years to get closer to affording the house, make the sacrifice. I mean, if you really want a house, you should be making these sacrifices anyway. So next, let's tackle those dining out and entertainment costs, which we all love so much, admittedly. Cooking at home can save you a ton of cash. And I even have a video to help you save more money on groceries, which I'll link to later in this video to reduce your costs further. But take a look at your credit card bill if you don't believe me here. It's kind of insane how quickly these expenses can get away from you. So if you decide that you just can't do without dining out, look for restaurants with daily specials or deals. And remember that many places offer the same great food at lower prices during lunchtime. So, it may make sense sometimes to just, grab something for lunch, heat it up later for dinner, and boom, you saved yourself 30, 40%. Next step here is negotiation. So call up your auto, your home, your cell phone, and insurance providers. Be polite with them, but be firm as well, and ask if they can give you a better rate. Don't be scared to threaten to go to another provider if they really aren't willing to play ball here. Most of the time, they are going to push back on you a bit, but if you are persistent, you can usually negotiate a limited time promotion that they almost are always running for new customers. So I'd recommend that you do this every 6 months, and if you do, I'd be willing to bet that you could save at least $1,000 per year, or possibly more when you consider all those different bills. Lastly, and this one might sound a bit extreme, but consider downsizing your living space temporarily. Now I know that sucks, but think about it here. So smaller space means lowering rent, lower utilities, and less stuff to maintain. I remember when I started my own business, I moved into a suburb of Chicago. I got a small place. I barely had any furniture, and my cost of living was super cheap. So granted, you're not starting a business here, but it actually can reduce your bills a lot by doing this. All right, TR, what's next?
Let's focus on making more money.
Okay, TR, we can do that, but this is, super obvious advice. And if you think that they haven't already thought of this, then you're just plain wrong.
I'm never wrong, you meatbag. I think it's worth focusing on this to give them some ideas.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So I'll go ahead and do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep this quick. So we're gonna keep this, quick and short here, guys. So obviously increasing income, it's a good idea. And my standard advice here is really 4 main points. So ask for that raise that you deserve, or start hunting for a job that pays you what you're worth. Consider picking up a side gig or part-time work that fits your schedule. Clean out your closets and try to sell anything that you don't really use anymore on places like Facebook or OfferUp. Either of those would work. And then also put your skills to work and start freelancing in your current field. So for instance, if you're an accountant, consider offering, one-off tax services to people. A good place to start with this would be the websites Upwork or Fiverr. Okay, Tiara, so let's go ahead and get a little bit more creative with the ideas now. I went through them. What else do you have here?
Let's get into down payment assistance programs.
Okay, that's better. So let's talk about 2 game changers for first-time home buyers. So there are state and local programs and FHA loans. So first is the state and local programs, which are definitely worth looking at, as each state offers unique, types of assistance. So for instance, Arkansas, it might give you up to $10,000 through its Dream Down Payment Initiative. And don't forget to check with your city or your county too, because sometimes they offer really unique, offers as well, especially to first-time home buyers. Now, FHA loans are a huge deal for first-timers. So with a credit score of 580 or higher, you might only need 3.5% down. And even with a score between 500 to 579, you're not out either. You can usually still get an FHA loan with 10% down. All right, Tiara, these programs are worth considering, but we still need some more creative ideas. So what else do you have?
How about house hacking?
Yes, more ideas like this. So house hacking involves buying a property and renting out part of it. So imagine living in one bedroom while tenants in the other rooms help pay your mortgage. Or even better, buy a house yourself and find enough other renters to live there to actually cover your mortgage entirely. What else do you got, Tiara?
Consider co-buying with family or friends.
Yeah, so co-buying, it's an interesting idea, but obviously requires some serious trust. So here, you'd pool your resources together to afford a better home in a nicer area. Just make sure to kind of iron out all the details and get everything in writing to avoid future headaches. Nothing would suck more than losing contact with a friend or a family member because they decide that they can't afford the rent and you have to cover their living expenses, which obviously I'd be pretty pissed about too, but yeah, let's try to avoid that. All right, let's keep it going, Tiara.
Absolutely. What about fixer-uppers with renovation loans?
Yeah, so I like this one a lot actually. So programs like the FHA 203K, those loans let you roll the purchase price and renovation costs into one mortgage. Now there is a risk, of course, with not properly budgeting renovations, so do your homework here. But if you do this properly, you can renovate a kind of so-so house into your dream home, which is a cool way to do it. So Tiara, let's dive a little bit deeper here into unconventional ideas.
What about deciding to move back home?
Tiara doesn't know how annoying that can be. But if this is an option for you, it actually might not be a terrible idea. You could potentially live rent-free or pay minimal rent, which means that you'd obviously save a ton of money. And hopefully you'll get some home-cooked meals from mom and dad that can really cut down on your food expenses significantly. And most importantly, you'll have the chance to focus on your own financial goals without the pressure of, keeping up with the high, living costs that there are.
Glad you like that one. What about real estate auctions?
Yeah, well, plenty of risks here with real estate, but not a bad idea if you do your work. So attend a few auctions as an observer to kind of learn the ropes, and be prepared for potential curveballs like limited property access or not even seeing the property at all, and all cash purchase requirements. But most importantly, set a firm budget and stick to it, because it's really easy to get caught up in the excitement, especially in an auction, and kind of overbid.
How about rural housing programs?
Yeah, so the USDA offers 0 down payment loans for low and moderate income borrowers in rural areas, which will potentially save you thousands on a down payment. And some states will even sweeten the deal with their own programs. So for instance, I'm in Nevada. They have the Rural Down Payment Assistance Program, which offers up to $25,000 in forgivable assistance if you qualify. Now, personally, I would love a rural property myself. And if that sounds like a winner for you, go ahead and check it out.
Hey, Ron, don't forget you mentioned a financial loophole to help them cut their home saving timeline by a third.
That I did, Tiara, that I did. So that would actually be your rent-to-own agreement. So this option, it allows renters to put a portion of their rent towards a future down payment on the house that they're actually renting. So over time, this can significantly decrease the amount of money that's needed up front to buy the house, while also locking in a purchase price that could be advantageous if property values rise. Now, it's not always easy to get this done, but ask whoever you're renting from if it's possible, and the answer may surprise you. And this goes for houses, condos, townhouses. Ask the owner, if that's something that they'd be willing to do, and sometimes they might be. Now, earlier in this video, I mentioned that I had another video to help you save money on groceries, and you can find that right up here. But if you aren't interested in that one, no problem. You can check out this other video instead. But please, before you go, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel to unlock financial success one AI chat at a time. Thanks for watching.